Well, in theory, all agreements that so varied in all the complexity of what you're dealing with, that unless you flag it and say, this is an open meeting, so the public really doesn't have a chance to
So my mind is
He's trying to be. How about that?
Right. They would give it to him last week. We had a 2 years.
We'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the council conducted in the committee of the whole for October 17th, 2011. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Here. Mr. Frazier.
Here.
You have 6 members present.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is a request for recognition from Pamela Giro. If you would go to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Can we start our timer at the same time?
Just give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Pamela Giro, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155. I just wanted to bring some things to the attention of council, administration, and the community. There are some high-ranking law enforcement officers inquiring about me. That's okay, but I hope the inquiring is for positive reasons. I hope it's not for the reason to label me and make me out to be a monster. I am a daughter of the Most High God, and one of his redemptive names is El Elyon. I've been doing some inquiring of my own. To have an officer and an acting chief at a council meeting is an abuse and a waste of power. We need all the officers we can have on the streets to protect and serve and to fight the escalated crime rates in the city of Southfield. Mr. Jim Charette, for the official record, let me correct you, and also Ms. Ray O'Donnell, who was here at the last meeting on October 3rd. You stated that no one was denied their pension or demoted with a 6% pay cut. There was an African-American officer, our only African-American female officer. There was an attempt to take 6% of her pay. She filed a grievance. Maybe the process is stopped. You know the issue with Uriel Vincent, this officer. An acting chief who is not this officer's commander was inquiring about this officer, Uriel Vincent's payoff or payout. You know this, and you said it couldn't be done. Since August 24th, Officer Uriel Vincent was denied access to the badge and ID all over a flashlight. Isn't it true that the police department and the city made an agreement stating that each officer has a $400 allowance for clothing that can be carried over year to year and they can use for certain things? Isn't a flashlight in compliance with this purchase? This has never been done in the city of Southfield Police Department, denying an officer his badge access and his CPL. Does this represent the Southfield standard? I purport that there was an attempt to take the cost of this flashlight out of this officer's payoff. Council President Frazier, you stated for the official record that this was bad policy when in fact there is no policy. You can't correlate bad policy with no policy because it doesn't exist. This city denied Uriel Vincent his police badge and police ID CPL. Now you overturned that bad decision / bad policy that doesn't exist. But if the acting chief, who is not, and I'll spell not, N-O-T, this officer's commanding supervisor, why did you overturn it? Are we acting as a city to check into the rumors and the allegations of some high-ranking police officials? One of the allegations was there was an investigation about falsifying some time records. Are we looking into that? Do we have a standard for that? Mr. Charette, for the official record, were you aware of this allegation, that there was an investigation about falsifying time records, and did you share it with the city council body? There's another allegation about 2 to 3 hour lunches. Did you share that with the council, and are we looking into that? Mr. Charette, as a city administrator, you are aware that there's another allegation that a high-ranking law enforcement officer used a city vehicle, city gas, and a city trailer to take his child back to college. Is that legal at the taxpayer's expenses? We know that watching all the police shows and reality TV shows that files and things can disappear from the record or from personnel files. Instead of rough shadowing me and monitoring my calls at home, let's use the police more effectively to fight crime. Mr. Charette and Mr. Barris, do you plan on checking into these allegations by interviewing police officers and or high-ranking officers before the chief of police is selected for the city of Southfield? If these allegations are proven to be true, what will you do? Will you terminate the person? Will you take their pension? Will you refuse the badge and police CPL? Or will you slap them on the wrist with a demotion and take 6% of their pay? Common feelings are that people are afraid to talk about these allegations because they fear retaliation. And the rumor is this person is very vindictive. Lastly, did you know as a city council and as a city administrator that there are officers that retired with credentials and they were not in good standings? They had criminal sanctions against them. So I hope that you checked into these allegations. I hope that we do the right thing, and I hope that we set a real standard in this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a request for recognition from Sensoria Baldwin. If you would go to the microphone, give us your name and address for the record, you'd have 5 minutes.
Excuse me, hello.
Hello.
To the chair, council, absence of Madam Mayor, and to the audience as well as the residents. My name is Sensoria Baldwin, P.O. Box 889, Southfield, Michigan 48037. And I am here to hopefully persuade the council to do something that you probably never approved to do before. But I would like for us to look into possibly partnering more with our nonprofit established organizations here in our city. And one being, and I'll give this out to you real quick, so I know we have those 5 minutes, and just pass that to the council. This is Ms. Michelle Howard. She'll state her name and address as well. She's a representative with Spectrum Family Services Organization, which is a nonprofit here in Southfield. We are running an aggressive campaign as an independent consultant myself for this agency. We began to run an aggressive campaign for Give a Child a Home for Christmas as of August the 18th when I took on this challenge, as well as this exciting opportunity to help this organization market and promote, as well as recruit foster care parenting for this program. I've been very pleased and elated with the progress that we've been making so far. I would have been reluctant if I hadn't came before my own city in which I reside in front of my city council and asked for your support in this project as well. The importance of foster care parenting is very, very very, very high because we do right now, in the state of Michigan, we have 16,000 foster care children waiting to be placed. We have over 4,000 in Wayne County. We have over 900 in Oakland County, and we have over 1,100 in Macomb County. So this is very serious for us to make a preventative measure to keep our children's feet from becoming on the street, and we would like to give them a home before Christmas. What we propose to ask you to consider is to allow us to put signs out. Now, just before you go, oh my God, you know, other people have approached us with that same idea. We know that this would give us aggressive visibility before Christmas, and we're asking to do it during the election season where there's other signs out, so that our city does not become a model or a mimic for other people to come put signs out. That you would begin to look at proposals from nonprofit established organizations here that want to promote and advertise certain things that would meet the need of people. We know there's a great need for people that through the government shutdowns and the bridge cards and them being cut off, nonprofits, this is where they step up to offer their help to the people. And so if we are allowed to at least put 25 signs up or even less throughout certain parts of the city while candidate signs are up, it'll camouflage in with you guys' signs, and then we won't have a whole lot of people coming before you saying, hey, we've seen this organization, we want to do it. But if we put in place a proposal and allow you guys to review their proposal and see the need of what they're trying to promote and advertise, I believe it would be a great start to a partnership with nonprofit organizations here. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Howard real quick, which is a representative from Spectrum Family Services.
Well, Cecilia touched on it the most.
Could you give us your name and address?
I'm sorry,
for
Michelle Howard, 16250 Northland Drive, Southfield, 48075. Again, Cecilia touched on it 100%, stating the need for foster parenting within our agency here, which is located in Southfield. And we are looking to recruit foster families for children that are in dire need, who have suffered from abuse and neglect. And again, during the election time, we think that would be the most, apparent time to put out signs within the community to promote our effort in obtaining foster parents from the Southfield community.
The sign size would be no larger and no smaller than an 18 by 24. That would be your next definite question. And they would not remain out. We would be responsible for removing those signs where we do not cause any city cost or any extra cost to our building inspector to go out and pick those signs up. And again, we're not talking about flooding this city property with 50 or 100 or 200, just maybe about 25 in certain visible places that would make the campaign more visibly and aggressive before December, and hope in return as a result of that, getting some children placed in foster care before Christmas. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Lance, you had your hand up.
Yeah, very interesting proposition. You tell us, where do we start
Where do you start would be right now
with the program?
with the program.
What can we do now to help you with the
It's just for us to get the signs out. We have the election, the signs come down November the 8th. We have less than, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
We would need the approval for the signs, and we have to get the turnaround time.
Yeah, because it's a small window in an effort to get families licensed. It's a long process. It's a lengthy process. It's an in-depth process. And we have to make sure families are safe to even take in children that have been abused and neglected. So it is a small time frame that we are in right now, but if we can get immediate approval, that would be great. But we are trying to get these families in, get them licensed, go through the assessment portion in which they have to go through in an effort to take in the children that are in need.
And let me just interject real quick and say, this we would like for you to look at on a long-term basis annually. And just remember that Spectrum has been very highly rated as a nonprofit organization that offers varieties of services to children. Ms. Taylor?
I'd like to know from the city attorney or the administrator, how can we go about this? or can we?
I'm sorry, can I get Ms. Lenny?
Well, wait a second, we're trying to answer one.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Lance's question.
Okay.
And I'll run the meeting.
Okay. I'm
Thank you.
taking, I'm taking over?
Sure, thank you.
Well, I asked,
Well, we've got sign ordinance, and there's no reason why they have to have any special privilege as long as they follow our sign ordinance. Even during the campaign signs have to follow our sign ordinance. And if we put our signs in the public right-of-way, the people come pick them up. If we put them on private property, there's no restriction as far as campaign season or not.
yes, but you're talking about election signs. We're talking about a non-profit organization type of operation here.
As long as they don't put them in the public right-of-way and put them on private property,
Well, that's all right, that I'm happy to hear. You put it on
they don't have to
private
get permission from us.
That's the question I'm trying to get out of the administrator and the city attorney, but the president to answer this.
Okay.
From what I understand, you can do it on private property. Just like, well, a garage sale or something.
On
I'd
city
like to-
property.
Huh?
I'd like to hear from the attorney.
Go ahead.
I would like to hear, I heard
Yeah,
my
this
own
is
response, but I would like to
Well,
hear
Mr. President,
from the attorney.
the first I've heard about this proposal, and the attorneys don't give good opinions when they just talk off the top of their head. You're right, we do have a sign ordinance. We have a sign inspector who enforces that ordinance. I'm not exactly sure what the specific proposal is here. I think you're right that we do not allow signs in the city right of way. And the political signs that you're referring are on private property with the private property owner's permission. But there are restrictions on the type of signs, the number of signs, and the size of signs that are detailed in our city code, and our sign ordinance. And I really want to have a chance to sit down with the sign inspector and hear about more details about
I've
the proposal.
talked with him.
You have talked to him?
I've talked with him,
He
and,
hasn't consulted with me, so
okay,
if
all
I
right.
could, I'd like to talk to him.
Well, just so you know, he's okay with it, but again, I told him I was gonna take the approach, in front of city council though, and he definitely gave me the
We'd be
okay
happy
to do that.
To review their
Okay.
request tomorrow with administration and sign inspector.
I would, through the chair, I would consider involving our human services department, in this effort. First through the attorney to make sure, what the appropriate approach might be.
Sure.
But, the human services department may give some help in, in this effort.
Okay, Mr. Lance?
Okay, it seems that we're thinking positive. You told us the sign size, one.
Yes, sir. No bigger than 18 by 24 and no
Okay.
less, smaller than
And
18
you had a
by
meeting with the sign?
Yes, I spoke with him, yes. They're the same signs that I had out at once when I was,
Okay, and you understand only on private property now?
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, now we need a date, a time date of all this.
Why? As long as they can get the permission from.
Let me,
Well, I'm
if I could just reiterate, no.
permission, I'm saying.
Council doesn't have to give permission or not give permission. You have a sign ordinance in place.
Okay.
And when we look at the proposal, if it complies with the sign ordinance, and our sign inspector is satisfied, and permission is granted from private property owners, then the ordinance will be
Okay, so I'm
Follow.
asking for a time,
I said, I'll sit down with the administrator and sign inspector if they're available, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.
okay.
So it's okay to give a follow-up, call to you maybe on Wednesday?
Sure.
All my questions were
Okay. Ms.,
No, I didn't have
okay.
a question.
All right, thank you for your time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a request for recognition from Fred Bunker. If you would go to, he's not
I
coming?
want to hear the.
Okay,
I don't want to say anything.
all right, let the record show that he was called but didn't answer. Next item on our agenda is the Oakland County Economic Development Update. We have some guests in our audience this morning, this afternoon, who would like to start this off?
I will be happy to start off. I've got the materials.
Okay, could you give us your name and business address?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good evening. Hi. I'm Dan Hunter. I'm the manager with Oakland County Planning and Economic Development. I want to thank our two county commissioners, Commissioner Jackson and Quarles, for assisting in getting us in the agenda for a few minutes of an update in terms of what we're doing in a very, very challenging economy, to say the least. In your packet, I first wanted to congratulate you on a award that someone in your Parks and Recreation staff received last week at a conference we had on green infrastructure. There's a press release in your packet, and it's the Oakland Award, and I believe we'll be presenting that at a future meeting, probably in November, of the council with Mary Carlock. You're to be congratulated for some of the green infrastructure and environmental stewardship achievements as designated by our planning group. Previous award winners were Springfield Township up a little west of Clarkston and the city of Novi for some of the things that they've been doing. We've been involved with you. Our planning side, we really have two sides of our business, planning and economic development. Planning really works with communities. And so the areas of environmental conservation, downtown development or redevelopment, land use, zoning, trail development, those are things that come out of our planning group. And the Oakland Award, which we came up with a couple of years ago, signifies some of the environmental stewardship efforts that are taking place around the county. We view those as very important to not only retaining the businesses that we have, but also attracting them. The quality of life in Oakland County is second to none. My hometown is Philadelphia. I've been here for 26 years now, and I think a lot of our issues are marketing nationally. We have a phenomenal quality of life. So this Oakland Award is just one little piece. I mentioned historic preservation and downtown development. On staff, we have an architect who has reached out and done some architectural renderings, more visionary, to help business owners get a feel for what a facade improvement might be. Last year, this staff person worked with the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, which we're very proud to be a member, on several projects of existing businesses. I think one was a tool and die shop, and another one was a daycare center, to give a vision to those property owners. We see our staff doing more of that when appropriate. I'm going to shift over to the economic development side because that's really, I think, the gist of what you're interested in. Our economic development staff really works with businesses and with communities through those businesses. It's why I came to Oakland County. I was enthralled 26 years ago with what I saw here. Oftentimes, almost always in Southfield, we are working with my dear friend, Miss Shelley Freeman, in the back there. She's indispensable to us in working with business and industry, whether they're here now or whether they're looking to take roots. It's really, really helpful to have a staff person. We've seen that grow over the years in Oakland County, but you've got one of the best. I mean that. You've got a really good staff person here. A lot of what we do is business retention. That's the building block. We've got 40,000 businesses in Oakland County. So our number one goal is to try to keep them here, keep them happy. It's not the only thing we do, but business retention, calling on our customers is really, really essential, and that's all sizes and shapes. It's a lot easier in many ways to keep a company here than it is to recruit a company from out of town, from out of state, from out of the country. They've obviously had some success here, and so we try to get in there and find out what the issues are and how we might be able to help, bringing all kinds of resources. Public resources can sometimes be a really simple item, or sometimes very complex. Workforce development issues, financing issues, and on and on and on. One of the tools that we use to work with existing companies are financing programs. And I'm proud to say that our county, through its Economic Development Corporation and our Business Finance Corporation, has played a major role over 25 to 30 years in helping businesses with fixed asset financing needs. In Southfield, we've worked with and through your city and EDC with the Straight Center project a few years ago. I believe also several times with Lawrence Tech. On the Business Finance Corporation, which is a U.S. Small Business Administration program, we've done over 400 small business loans in Oakland County. On the way over, one of my favorites is the Ralph Wilson Agency, right there on Telegraph. That was a piece of about a $3 or $4 million investment. So those are really important pieces. They're kind of tried and true. We continue to market those in the lending communities, and oftentimes you'll hear the county executive on his usually WJR or WWJ trying to promote those two programs. The phone really rings off the hook when he gets out there. Last year, just to give you an indication on that small business program, we closed on either 27 or 28 projects. That's a pretty good number. In our heyday, we would do about 35 or 40. So we really see the lending coming back around. I don't think it'll be what it was, but we're seeing lenders looking at businesses and jumping in when the numbers make sense. I'm very fortunate to oversee a really talented staff. On the economic development side, we have 6 business development representatives that are the main drivers of going out and working with the communities to do our business retention calls, and also to work with the state of Michigan, the Detroit Chamber, or any private entity that might have a lead on a potential business coming to town. We really, really work those relationships hard. Those 6 business development representatives are working our Emerging Sectors program since 2004. Before that, our staff really kind of worked automotive, manufacturing technology. Well, we were really busy in the 90s. Everybody was. In 2004, we looked and identified 10 sectors. And so one staff person has alternative energy, and she's really gotten pretty knowledgeable about the wind industry and the solar and the photovoltaic industry and the battery industry. And another person has gotten involved with IT and communications and the defense industry. Of course, we're right next door to Warren and TACOM, and we see a lot of opportunities with existing businesses here in Oakland County. So that person has really jumped in. It's really been different. The automotive industry we have, and we have to retain them, but jumping off into some of these other industries has really been helpful. Since 2004, we've had about 190 companies investing about $1.8 billion in Oakland County. We've had a piece of those in assisting in their growth. A part of the emerging sectors, you might have heard Medical Main Street. Of course, in Southfield, you have two founding members of Medical Main Street, Providence Hospital and Housey Pharmaceutical. You might have seen some ads over the last couple of years with Housey. Small clinical research company, but we think there really is a story to tell. The Medical Main Street is a branding, is taking some of our major healthcare institutions around the county, Providence, Beaumont, St. Joe's and Pontiac, and some of the medical device and pharmaceutical companies, and kind of getting them working together and helping to brand our area. There's about 95,000 people in Oakland County working in healthcare, life sciences, biotech, medical devices. It's far and away the biggest sector that we have. It's important that you know that we don't just rest on our laurels here in Oakland County. We're fortunate to have had the support of our commissioners and the county executive, and judiciously and usually with partners, we will travel the globe doing research on companies that we think would be a good fit. In good times and in bad times, we've been able to continue with that. So one staff person, and his sector is primarily automotive, but he's been traveling to China, Japan, and South Korea 6 or 7 times in the last 3 or 4 years. You should see him when he gets back. It's not pleasant. Travel is not all that glamorous, because our goal when we get there is to pack the week, pack it with meetings with potential investors. We have another 2 people that have carved up Europe, primarily Germany, France, Italy, and the UK. And for years, we've been working our neighbors to the north, primarily Ontario, Toronto, which we're a gateway for those companies looking at the U.S. Those types of companies tend to get the headline, but it's just a piece of a rather comprehensive effort. We've been involved for years with smaller businesses, and to put a little more depth on that, I would like to introduce Ms. Lola Are, who's been waiting very, very patiently, to fill you in on some of the things going on in our business center. We're very fortunate to have Lola.
Good evening. My name is Lola Are, and I'm the Center Director of the Oakland County Business Center. We basically cater to small...
Excuse me, do you have the same business address?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We cater to small for-profit businesses, and a small business, according to the U.S. SBA, is defined as a business with 1 to 499 employees, and up to $100 million in sales. And that population represents about 98% of Oakland County's businesses. So even though we have Chrysler, maybe not in Southfield, but we do have it in Oakland County, majority of the businesses are considered small businesses. With that in mind, we do work with businesses from the pre-venture stage to existing. And our mix is about 60-40, 60% existing and established, and about 40% startups and new ventures. We usually do three things for them. We do business counseling and coaching, and that's paid for with taxpayers' dollars at the federal, state, and county level. So it's no charge. It's already, you've already paid for it. And in Southfield, in different Oakland County communities, we have different programs we run to get the business owners involved. So in Southfield, with Shelley Freeman's help, we've organized what we call business assistance teams. Last year we did 2. We haven't actually done one this year, but we will be working on one. Right, Shelley? Okay. And basically the mayor kicks it off. So a letter goes out from the mayor to business owners in the city of Southfield. And on average, we have, over 100 responses, and we have about 85 on average attend this event. And we tell them about the small business resources available on the county and state levels to them. And then they can come to our offices to receive the other services. So we have the counseling and coaching. We also have the trainings. The trainings are really meant to educate the audience to what they don't know, so we can work with them better. And then we have other resources in the county, including the Business Finance Corporation, where people can borrow anywhere from $150,000 to $10 million to buy fixed assets. On staff, we have 4 consultants, 2 financial. One of them just joined us from the Business Finance Corporation. So we have people who work on working capital as well as fixed assets. So whether you're buying a building or you need money to run your business, we have those consultants on staff. I myself, I'm a marketing consultant, and we have a generalist. So we have, a wealth of consultants. We're also part of the Michigan Small Business and Technology Development Center Network. For those of you, this is in your packets. We have 4 offices, including Oakland County's office in Southeast Michigan. So there's an office in Detroit Techtown. It's not Techtown, it's located in Techtown. They rent space from them. There's an office at Schoolcraft College in Livonia, which services southern Oakland County and western Wayne. And there's an office in Monroe. So those are the offices. But this is a statewide network, and you can go out to the UP, you have all those services available. So throughout the state, throughout Oakland County and the rest of Southeast Michigan, the network exists. Just a brief bit of history, this network also exists in every single state in the country. Back in the early 80s, Congress set aside funds for small businesses. So 50% of all the state funds come from the SBA, from the Fed, and each state is responsible for the other 50%. So in Michigan, it's 50% from the Fed, 25% from the MEDC, and the other 25% comes from local matches, including the county. And so that's what we do for small businesses. In terms of last year, we get measured based on economic impact. So we get measured based on the jobs created, jobs retained, new business starts, increases in sales, capital formation. For the businesses we worked with, we got for them about $7 million in capital. Okay, so even when the banks were supposedly not lending, we did get that just for our Oakland County office. And that's just the businesses we worked with. So we had about, with the businesses we worked with, over 20 new business starts. And when we say start, it's not when you register with the county or register with the state. It's when you actually start getting sales into your business that we consider you a start. So you could have registered your business 5, 10 years ago and had no sales, and now you just started getting sales. So that's how we measure you. So we had over 1,200 people attend our workshops to get educated before they took the counseling. So, and even at the business assistance teams that we ran in Southfield, at the Southfield Library, we count all those people amongst the population. So any questions at this point?
Yes, if you. Is your agency responsible for the people, to send the people to us for tax abatements? Do you recommend your contacts to come to Southfield?
Sometimes we will get involved with companies that are competitively bidding, if you will, all other things being equal, we will get involved. A company will indicate that it is important to them, as well as other state incentives, which are being drastically reduced under the new corporate tax rate. So we are working with them and trying to work with local councils and township boards for a win-win. Not in every case. I think that is our job and yours to look at those investments and those types of companies and determine if it is a good fit and how much of a good fit. So we're involved very much with those around the county. I can tell you that when we have major auto shows here, the North American International Auto Show, the Society of Engineers Show, our competition is coming into our community, and we're talking governors of states and talking to our Tier 1, Tier 2 suppliers. And they are now traveling with cash in hand, practically, to sweeten the deal. We are not afforded that in Michigan. So we're really trying to stress the assets of the community, but sometimes the incentives can make the difference at the end. It's probably similar to, I bought a car at the end of December, and I had 3 dealers, and I used the internet, and I wanted the best deal. And I think I got it.
Let me go a little bit further. I heard you say that you have a portion of your agency that loans out money up to 10 million, 100 million, what?
The two programs, and I failed to mention, microloan program, which is in your packet. Thanks to our commission, we partnered with a group that specializes in these small working capital loans up to $50,000. There was one in Southfield called Party Source, Children's Inflatable and Party Entertainment. And these are companies that have had several letters of rejection from lenders. And Mario's Menswear, a retail store selling men's suits and other apparel. The Economic Development Corporation, which is a tax exempt, and that's federal tax exempt, not local, can issue bonds for up to $10 million for a manufacturer.
I'm not interested in the small business. I'm glad you're helping them. That's fine.
Yep.
But I am concerned when the billion-dollar corporations come to us to get a $12,000 tax abatement from us. Why don't they go to you and borrow the money? You have the money. Why do they bring us down by not paying taxes for 3 years or 6 years? Sure, eventually they pay. But in the meantime, when they don't pay the taxes, we're suffering. That's what I mean.
It's a tough
You are
call.
sending them to us.
We're working with them and not sending them, bringing them.
Well, working with them means you're recommending them to where they can go to get
But we,
a tax abatement to the cities, and the cities are struggling, and this city gives them tax abatements, and you know I don't. I'm not in favor because
right.
you will eventually find out. The end result is that tax abatements do not help the city. One day it's going to be proven. You'll see. So now I don't like you. Now I know what you do.
Occasionally, we will have the financing also on those projects as well. It's a tough, I understand it's a very, very difficult decision. And, you know, there's philosophical and then there's practical. But yes, we're working with the business and telling them that this is serious. If they're going to ask, they really need to be serious.
Of course it's serious. Look what's happening to us. It's
Yep.
serious.
Absolutely.
Yes, and you're not helping. You are causing it.
I would say probably our state tax code and our national tax code are causing most of that. I think our millage rates here, for the most part in the county, are pretty reasonable. But when we're bringing them, we're also saying that Oakland County and its 4.1 or 2 mills is also supportive of your decision, because those are local decisions. The county has we can come to public hearings and yes or no, but ultimately that is the city, village, township call.
Well, I got your answers, and I know where you come from. I would suggest maybe you set up a program to help the cities maintain their budget. The way you're doing with business, do it for us. Do it for the small cities. That would be wonderful.
Good point.
Help us balance our budgets. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of taking, you would be giving us. So that, I'm dreaming there. Well, I made my point. Thank you.
There's a question here about the Michigan Loan Participation Program and the Michigan Collateral Support Program. They help small business. These are Michigan Economic Development Corporation programs. I believe they went through a lot of their collateral support dollars first round very, very quickly. We see that as being an issue with a lot of the manufacturers and automotive suppliers that have collateral that has diminished greatly. So Lola's probably seen some of that as well, but I think from what I'm hearing is that those programs are on the mark.
That's pretty much accurate, but recently, through the state of Michigan, the MEDC, especially for small businesses, the governor announced the Pure Michigan Business Connect program. I know Huntington Bank came forward and said it was willing to pledge up to $2 billion for small businesses. But again, the businesses have to qualify. The money is not available for just any small business. They need to meet the rules just like any other business would. And that's basically what we help the businesses do through our counseling and coaching. I mean, we're private sector trained even though we work for government. So we work with the business owners, and one of my staff consultants is a banker. So they work with the business owners to get them back in favor with their banks. I mean, when you talk to your banker, you don't always understand what they say. And when our banker talks to them, they understand exactly what they're talking about, so they can get the business owner back on track. And the money might not be available today. It might take 3 months, 6, 9, even a year to get them back on track. And so once they do, they will get the money. They have received the money. But it's not always an immediate process, especially with the recession from 2008.
Mr. Lance, you have another question?
I will make you a bet that small business in Southfield don't know you exist. How do you reach out to them? Do you reach out to them?
Well,
Do you reach out to small restaurants, to small business in our city? I don't think so, because I've been to, in the last month, 35, 40 businesses, and they're struggling. They need money, they need help, they never heard of them. And I didn't bring it up because I didn't realize your position here.
Well,
Okay,
one of the things
so
I mentioned...
How do you notify all these small businesses that they can be helped?
Okay, one of the things I mentioned earlier has to do with working with Shelley Freeman, the mayor of Southfield. We have held 2 events in a year here in Southfield, at the Southfield Library, and a letter goes out to all the small businesses. So Shelley works with us. They have mailings go out to all these business owners, and it's those who show up. We can't force them to come. So only those who want to come to those events.
I don't buy that. I spoke to these businesses.
You work with
Yes, we work with the chamber. Yes, we do.
A lot of these small businesses cannot afford to belong to the chamber. Waste of time.
Well, we also reach out to the public. They don't have to be a member of the chamber.
I know that.
Okay.
Chambers.
But you do have a hole there. They do not know you exist. I don't care what you say, but I spoke to these people. I asked them if they get financing. They said, no, the bank won't give them any money. But here you are.
We use email, we use newsletters, we use chambers, we use Shelley and
why
her
don't
newsletter.
Why don't these people take advantage of it? You can't tell me they don't want to.
Well, not everyone qualifies, like I started to say earlier. They have to be worked with, and it could take anywhere
Well, you got to find out.
Right.
No, I don't buy that. And Shelley can't go to 50 people in 1 week to offer them the help.
We also use, and I think fairly effectively, the county executive, and the power of his voice, both on the radio. I'm telling you, when we do a series of ads on the loan program, the response is phenomenal. It cuts through, and so there isn't a silver bullet, and we don't have dollars really for marketing like Macy's or Penny's has. We have to work with a lot of partners, and you're right. Some businesses don't want any help. They don't care for any help. We've been told that.
I'm going to take your booklet, and I'm going to visit those businesses when I have time, and I'm going to tell them to go to you.
We would be happy.
So I'll be the one-man public relations to you. I think the young lady that actually wants to speak.
Well,
it pertains to this.
Yeah, I understand. Ms. Jackson?
Thank you, President. I just want to say, and speak to that last comment and question, because that is an issue sometimes. I have gone, and as commissioners, we've gone to our constituents and the public, and they have said, what's out here for us? I don't know. Well, I want to solve this, really, because this is what we have to address as commissioners, and this is why we're here as well. Last month,
Could you
we
give us your
present.
name and address?
I'm sorry, I'm Commissioner Janet Jackson, 29315 Lancaster, number 207, Southfield.
And I'm Commissioner Helene Zack, southeast tip of Southfield, and I live in Huntington Woods, Michigan.
And I'm Commissioner Nancy Quarles, 18131 Magnolia, Southfield, Michigan.
And we're very proud to have our Economic Development Director and Ms. Ari here, who has the center up at Oakland County in Pontiac. And they talked about some programs, and yes, how do you get the word out? And that's kind of what we're for. That's what we have done. Just as recently as last month, we held Entrepreneur Resource Forum at a local small business in an existing office building in this city that wants to create an incubator. And with the help of economic development, because Dan Hunter came down, I'm going to pass out the information from it. And I thought some of those folks would be here, because what it is, it's a family that has a business in a building that they want to buy and want to create a business center to help small startup businesses. And so we had over 50 individuals present that came out to hear about the resources that the county has to offer. So we brought it home. We aren't the only ones bringing it home. Rochelle is bringing it home. Lola is bringing it home. It was just another way to get the word out, as you inquired about, Councilman Land. The thing about it is, everybody doesn't have the internet. Everybody doesn't have the gas to travel up to Oakland County to take use or make use of the wonderful opportunities that they can to learn how to start up their business. The Oakland County Micro-Lending Program, SCORE, which is the Society of the Service Corps Retired Executives. They come out, they talk about how to start, how to write a business plan, how to get businesses going. We had Seed come out with a woman speaking to the audience about starting up a female business enterprise. So there are ways to get the word out, and that's what we're trying to do. Believe me, they are doing a great job. Dan Hunter came that night. He came to our city to speak to our residents. Commissioner Quarles was in attendance and addressed as a business owner herself. If you want to elaborate, please go ahead. I don't want to just take the whole floor, because we're all here. But that is what we have to do, is get the word out.
Well, I guess I can't say enough about what the Department of Economic and Planning does, but as you know, it is difficult to get the word out. We're all working along with you. We've put together mutual partnerships to get things done. And more importantly, no matter how hard we try, there's always going to be those that we're going to. That doesn't mean that we're not going to stop. And I know from programs, the seminars, the monthly activities that they have going, it is important, and we are trying to continue to do that. And to your question, Councilman Lance, we will continue one way or the other.
I would like to do, get some cards from you, information, and I will disseminate it to the small businesses, and I will tell them to go to you to get help in their business. What do you think of that? That's what I'm going to do.
That will help.
So if you'll give me your cards and have them call you and you and you, and we'll see where if we communicate with the small business.
We work very closely with our partners.
President, in the back are the individuals that have the business centers. Could you stand up, Lewis family? They not just have the business that they're trying to create. These are Southfield residents and business owners right here in the flesh. These are like people that are starting businesses. She has a business where she's helping to provide jobs. This is Kim Lewis, Karen Lewis Bland, and her daughter. And they have the business on Lobster Road between Civic Center Drive and 10 Mile that is trying to create an incubator where we can make a better use out of some of our business space. And these are the people that we ultimately all represent.
You should have had 25 people tonight.
I didn't want everybody to come. We did not have all that time. But I just wanted to just let you know that we are trying to
Let's find the time
get
and
the ground running.
communication to reach these people.
That's
because
what
they're
we're
all
doing.
struggling.
Believe me, Shelley and Lola and Dan, they're doing a great job. But yes, we are partnering with them now to bring it to the people, to take it to the grassroots levels. Because there's a lot of startup folks. you know, people that took buyouts of their 401ks who want to create business entities, and they need to be schooled to know how to get the real financing that Ms. Aree spoke
Tell
of.
it to the small business.
We had 50 folks there that day. I keep telling it till the cows come home, until I create one, just like Commissioner Quarles. So she is a business owner. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
Is there any other, can I ask a question? Is there any criteria that a small business has to meet in order to work with you to, I know you say that small businesses are anybody from 1 to 499 and,
Well, there's a process depending on if you're a pre-venture to startup. We have, on our website, we show you the path you need to take if you're starting out or you're pre-venture. There's a certain amount of education you need to do. If you're just starting out, you need to make sure you find out whether this is viable or not. And before they invest their money into it, we take them through that path. We also have, on the 29th of September, we had Paula Tutman come out and do a feature at Oakland County on people starting a business. And we featured, a business. She's actually in Bluefield Hills, but a pediatrician that taking one of our 10-week classes. We have one that started last Tuesday, and it's 10 weeks, and it takes you from concept stage to fruition. And graduates of that program are more, prepared to start their business. So that's the fast track, we have for those starting out. And they get vetted. They have to be vetted. They have to have some skin in the game. So they have to have money that they can put into this. They have to have good credit, because just because they take the class doesn't mean they'll be able to get credit after that. And so we do screen them based on that. Otherwise, we're going to put out a whole bunch of people who cannot get credit and then will blame us for this program eventually.
let's say that there was an established business. It's been in business for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And they're struggling now. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. One is the business has been in business for 5, 6, 7 years and they're struggling. Are they candidates to come to you? And
of course, we actually go to them. Those are we do a triage process. Those are hemorrhaging.
Okay.
We will go straight to their place of business and see them.
Okay.
They can come to us, but we prefer to go to them to see what's going on in their environment.
Okay, and the second scenario is a small business that started pretty modestly and has found some success. They found the niche that they were looking for, and now it's time for them to grow, but they're having some problem going to the banks. I think this is the kind of a business that Mr. Lance is talking about. They're struggling to find money to grow their business, whether it's bricks and mortar or marketing or something that will help them be more successful. Are they also a candidate to come to you?
Oh, of course, as long as they're for-profit. We just don't work with nonprofits. We don't have the expertise to work with nonprofits. So as long as they're for-profit, we work with them. We have to do an assessment. So just because they say they can't find money, we need to find out why they can't find money. And
But
so,
they're still a candidate?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
There are some that started out as for-profit and ended up not-profit.
Well, some of them don't decide that because they think they don't have to pay taxes. So we set them straight, too.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming and
Thank you.
Thank you.
telling us what you do, and commissioners also.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Could we please have 5 more minutes, or just 2 more minutes on the agenda,
Sure.
because we have a surprise, the commissioners have a surprise. Surprise? Upon the retirement of Ken Cyrus from the Southfield School Board for all of your years of dedication, there's some accounting for you.
Get up there.
What can I say, neighbor? We live down the street from each other, so I certainly have great appreciation for all that you've done. And we didn't get a chance to give this to you at your actual retirement, so let's take this as your second opportunity to retire.
I wanted to say something. When I first started running for county commissioner for my 1.5 square miles of Southfield, Ken reached out with me, knocked on doors along with Councilman Frazier, and they welcomed me into this wonderful city. And I will never forget that. I appreciate all of the years you've given to everyone here.
Very nice.
You're ruining, you won't be any good for the rest of the night. The next item on our agenda is the proposed home child care facilities. Mr. Crowe, if you will.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight in preparation of your consideration of the proposed text amendments at your October 24th meeting. As you may recall, on July 18th, 2011, a public hearing was held on these text amendments, but action was tabled on the proposed home care facilities in order to allow the building official, the city attorney, and myself to review the proposed standards, fine-tune them, and bring them back for your consideration. Tonight, I'm going to take a few minutes just to provide a brief overview of what is being proposed for your consideration, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Currently, the city has 16 family child care facilities licensed within our border by the state, 37 group child care facilities licensed within city limits, and 48 child care centers. We currently regulate child care centers in our non-residential districts, but our ordinance is silent with regard to family and group child care homes. Now, family child care centers are permitted by right by the state as defined as fewer than 7 children. But group child care homes, which are defined as 7 to 12 children, can be regulated by local municipalities. And we're proposing to regulate group child care facilities as a special land use in our residential district. So our proposed text amendments deal with defining the difference between child care center, which we refer to as nursery schools, daycare centers, and day nurseries in our ordinance without defining what they are, and defining residential child care as either family child care home, group child care home, and defining what a private home is. That's the first set of ordinance for your consideration. The second set of requirements actually regulates them in a residential district by permitting family child care homes that are properly licensed by the state of Michigan as a permitted use within our residential district. Again, they're exempted by state statute, and allowing us to regulate group child care homes subject to special approval. And those special approval requirements include A, only the child care provider and his or her immediate family shall reside in the home. That prevents someone from buying a home in a residential district and operating a child care center without actually living there. Those would be regulated as businesses in our business districts. Secondly, we provide a minimum square foot requirement for children in the home to provide for adequate play space. Thirdly, we require adequate outdoor play space. A minimum of 1,200 square feet shall be provided on the subject property or at a park or public space located within 500 feet of the subject site. If a child care group home provides for the outdoor space, it has to be adequately screened and enclosed to keep children in and prevent animals and others out, keep them out. The hours of operation would be defined as a state statute and could not occur between 10 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning. Pursuant to our sign ordinance, there shall be no signs for the child care home in a residential district. And finally, the appearance and maintenance of the property shall be consistent with the visible character of the neighborhood. But more importantly, by regulating the group child care homes in the residential district, it gives residents and neighbors the opportunity to comment at a public hearing. and gives you the ultimate approval on a case-by-case basis of whether it makes sense in this particular case or it doesn't. So in summarizing the proposed amendments, we currently have several businesses that operate. Our ordinance is silent on those. This would give us an opportunity to regulate and to enforce, and brings us in compliance with state statute. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay, Mr. Lyons?
Up until now, we did not regulate any of these child care facilities.
Only if they were businesses in business districts, but we have not regulated home child care in residential districts.
But they could be regulated and approved.
That's what we're proposing, that family child care, which is 6 or less, is exempted by right, but 7 to 12, which is defined as a group child care, would be regulated as a special use by the council.
Just up to 7, no more?
7 to 12, as defined by the state
7 to
statute.
12.
Right, that's correct. And they'd have to meet all of the minimum requirements for size and play area and so forth.
And we did not have that before your...
That's correct. We did not, we were...
What did we have before?
We did not regulate group child care or family child care at all. Our ordinance was silent to that issue.
Well, didn't the county or the state regulate them?
The state has requirements, and specifically for group child care home, the state requires local zoning approval. Local municipalities have the right to regulate as a special use. For whatever reason, we've chosen not to in the past, and so we would have to, we had a statement that said we neither approve or disapprove these facilities in our community. What I'm proposing is that we have something on the books so that we have both an enforcement tool and we protect the health and welfare of our children and the neighbors.
Okay, how old do the children have to be?
They're defined as under 18. Under 18.
All right, let me ask a question. How about the adult group homes? Are they regulated by us?
No, they're not, and this is not, we're not dealing with adult group homes at this time.
I know that.
They are exempted by state statute.
The city has nothing to do with that.
Up to a certain limit now.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Garrison?
Yeah, I was wondering, what has happened to bring this forward? Normally there's something, there's a complaint, or there's a problem.
Right.
Things don't normally just
Sure.
show up.
Sure.
What
There's two things. When I first started in my position, we did a cursory review of the zoning ordinance and identified issues to address. And since I've taken over as planning director, I've had several phone calls inquiring about these types of businesses. When individuals apply for state licensing, they send us a form to sign off. I've been unable to consciously, in good faith, sign off on group care homes because we don't regulate them. So we have to send them a benign letter saying that we neither approve or disapprove. So we did some research and homework on adequate standards, and that's why we're bringing it forward to you. But we've had a number of calls, especially in the Orthodox Jewish community that have larger families and prefer to send their children to home daycare type of businesses, but we currently don't regulate them. And we've been unable to sign off on those businesses.
Okay, I don't know if that really answers my question, no. You may be telling me something that I'm not hearing.
I've received several inquiries about this.
Inquiries that there are more than 6 or 7 kids
From
in a
7
home.
to 12.
It doesn't appear that there's enough space, or there are too many.
We don't currently regulate them.
Right.
So it's been asked from private residents who want to open up a type of facility where they're permitted, and when they file for their state license, the state sends us a letter asking us if they comply with our local zoning. and they don't because we don't regulate them.
Okay, and so in prior years, or even right now, that didn't stop them from existing, did it?
No, the city, sent a letter that says we neither approve or disapprove these types of
Right.
uses. And then they're allowed to go in there without notification to neighbors, without going through the public hearing process, and without the city having some standards to enforce. And only if they become a code issue or there's some nuisance would we investigate. This gives us the opportunity to have some control over where, when, how, who, and
Okay, so this applies to child care
group homes.
group
Yes.
with what is over
7 to 12.
7 to 12,
individuals.
that's quite, that's not a small number of children.
No.
7 to 12
Right.
is quite a bit for a home,
That's right.
period, 7 to 12.
And that's why we want to make sure we have adequate space indoors and outdoors if it's appropriate to allow them. As I stated, there are currently, according to the state website, there are currently 37 group child care homes in our community.
I'm surprised to hear that, 7 to 12 here. As an educator, I'm surprised to hear that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Seibert?
Give me some insight.
I guess partly to Ms. Garrison, I see this as being us being proactive. We were fine before. And when you take we don't care, we don't comment stance, I think that, and we're permissive, in that. I do have one of these group homes in my neighborhood. There's not been a complaint with it, but I often wonder, there are two ladies and they walk 12 kids around the neighborhood, and it's not a problem, but they don't live next door to me either, so I don't know if, necessarily that I would want that activity in the house with the traffic and parents coming and going, dropping kids off and all that. But I think this is a good thing, so, and probably something we should have done earlier, and haven't.
Mr. Lance?
Yes, what about enforcement? We have the bodies to enforce this?
Well, I looked in the state statute, the Department of Health, and another agency from the state level, and they do allow local enforcement from building and code. As I stated in my introduction,
Does that mean police?
Well, I guess if it's a police issue, but our building official, Gary Comerford, has reviewed these regulations and has made some good suggestions. And again...
What did he suggest?
Well, he suggested that in review of basements, that if we're to count them as space, they have to be habitable, meaning they have to have two means of ingress or egress to be safe for children. He also looked at the state statute with regard to fence height and made a recommendation from 4 feet to 6 feet to be consistent with the state building code for child care facilities.
I mean security, enforcement of the ordinance.
That's right, to be consistent with state requirements.
That doesn't answer me.
Building department.
Right,
The building inspectors will do the enforcement?
that's correct. Or if there's a code violation, the codes department would review.
We don't have enough building inspectors to do any enforcement now. And I don't think that is the right venue to take building inspectors, because they're not trained in that type of conditions. I think enforcement should be connected to the human services or social workers or that type of enforcement of people who have experience, not a building inspector to go in and check the electricity or the water.
Through the chair, I mean, they may come into play for other issues, but we're talking about with regards to zoning requirements and building requirements.
All right, but I asked about the enforcement, I didn't ask about the zoning.
Right. Well, our office would be
Assume
reviewing,
the zoning will pass and we'll do everything correctly.
right, then the building
Back to your
department,
question.
the building department,
To do the enforcement.
the building department would do a review,
I disagree with you on that.
and, codes
So let's see,
department.
let me see if I can understand the question that, Councilman Lance asked. Are you talking about after the business is up and running,
Yes.
and there's a question about how the children are being?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think, there are two parts to this. One is, prior to the time it goes into business, is it being constructed in the,
I'm not
with,
talking about that.
okay. And I think you're kind of talking back past each other.
Okay,
So, he's talking about what happens if it's up and running, and then there's some complaint about how the children are being,
the state would review that.
the state,
Yes,
the state,
that's right.
the state.
State licenses,
Okay, all right.
they enforce the rules with regard to operations.
Why doesn't the state enforce the whole thing? Why are they called in just for particular things in case something happens?
The state allows us
Why
to
don't
have
we
a local,
enforce it?
because the state allows us, if we want, to have local zoning regulations, and that's what Mr. Crowe is proposing, that we give zoning approval. But once we get that approval, then the state has to license them, and then the state regulates the operations. We don't regulate the operations, it's just the initial approval under a zoning ordinance. That's what's being proposed.
All right, I think there's something I don't like there, but at this moment, I've got to think about it and see the ordinance. and see
Sure.
if we can-
Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Garrison?
So the state currently allows for the child care centers of 7 to 12.
They regulate them, yes. And
Right.
They also give the local municipality the authority to provide additional regulation if we so desire.
Okay, so right now, based on what we have in front of us, is there more leeway at the state? Is this more,
Restricted.
thank you, restrictive?
Well, it does give you the final authority to approve if they don't meet the conditions of special approval.
Okay, so, but, so of course, this would have to be in line with the state's guidelines. But this looks like within the state guidelines, it may be stricter than the state guidelines, that they may give a little bit more leeway, and we're narrowing this down.
That's
some.
correct.
Is
That's
that,
correct.
is that what's going
Yes,
on here?
yes. Protect ourselves and the neighborhood.
To protect ourselves in the neighborhood. So, okay, so, once again, to me, there's something else going on that I'm not, I mean, I'll talk to some other people later. There has to be some type of catalyst that is bringing this forward, or why we would, have stricter guidelines than the state, especially if the state is going to be the one that once we approve it, that will come in and monitor, because my child was in a, we're talking 25 years ago, but was in a child care home of about 4 or 5 kids. But not 7 or 12, way too many. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Perkowski?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, right now, the state notifies the city that there are, whether or not you approve them. We do not have anything, so really, the state takes it upon themselves. So, for example, if I have a vacant home next door to me, and there's 4 bedrooms in there, they may give them a license, and it may be adverse to my quality of life in my house, because they may put up, as you've seen some places, 101 swings in the back, and toys in the back, and they have children that come in and you go outside. It may trouble some neighbors. This way, it comes before council where you can have a hearing and people can say whether or not they consider it a nuisance or not. it is a nuisance to them, you have the right to not approve it.
Okay, because it
Up to
looks,
now, you can't.
right, it looks like A here, only the care provider and his or her immediate family shall reside in the home, which is telling me that with the number of vacant homes that we have in our city, that possibly some of the homes are being purchased
Absolutely.
to running
That's what I see
in the
as the problem.
neighborhood. Which is, you know, we had that with the group homes, the number of group homes.
Right.
And so we certainly don't want that. We want to keep that
Well, you
under
buy-
some control.
You buy a house like Ken did, how many bedrooms, Ken? 6? I mean, you can make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Turn it into
Well, maybe that's the plan.
But see, they'll be, much like the group homes that have come here, because of the size and scope of our homes, you know, that's why we have so many in Southfield, is because it fits the thing. Now, when you see houses going for what they're going for, I mean, they're sucking them up and making businesses out of them in residential neighborhoods. So this way, at least you know about it, it comes before you, and you don't wake up sometimes and say, what's going on next door? And then you have no choice. So I think it's a very good ordinance. I think it's been thoroughly discussed and looked over.
Are there any other questions? I do have a couple of questions. One is, do we have any control on how much distance between of these? Does the state allow us to control that?
I have not seen that in the state statute, and I would defer to our city attorney if he's aware of any, but.
There is no spacing requirement under the state law, but remember, as Mr. Crowe pointed out, if you approve this ordinance, these will be special land use approvals, and the concentration of a particular neighborhood is a relevant factor that you will be able to consider.
And that's a good point.
Now, that each house has a certain space, they're not too close to each other. All the houses have, what, 20 feet?
Oh, I think the question related to.
Can you have 3 houses
Can
in a
you
row?
have the concentration of, is there a requirement for spacing between group daycare homes, not just homes in general? Yes, there's a spacing requirement between the homes, it's called the setback requirement.
That would answer your question.
No, What I'm saying is, can there be 3 daycare centers adjacent to each other? Or do we say there has to be like 1,500 feet between daycare centers? So that there are 3 houses in a row with 12 kids in them, during the day, and, you know.
I don't think it's.
And again, the answer is under state law and under this proposed ordinance, there is no mathematical distance requirement, but that is a
Special use.
consideration under the special use would be whether there are too many particular neighborhoods, or you within your discretion.
And through the chair, that's a good point that I failed to mention. We have the blanket of 5 or 6 criteria under special land use, traffic, circulation, noise, odors, and so forth, that
Effects on adjacent property.
effects on adjacent property and character that council can use in consideration on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Second question is, paragraph D under the same portion, the outdoor play areas or subject property shall be enclosed with a completely obscuring decorative masonry wall or ornamental fence of at least 6 feet in height. Can we add in there that it has to be the setback has to be no nearer than the front of the building, either the side yard or backyard?
Yes.
So we don't have some front yards all fenced in with a 6-foot high dog-eared fence?
That was an issue that we did talk about at some point, so I'll make sure that gets added in there.
Okay. All right. So you want to talk about this next week? then?
Well, we did hold a public hearing, and it was directed to come back at date certain, and we're asking for your consideration for approval at your 24th.
Yeah, that's what I said, we're going to bring it back.
Yes.
At our next meeting, Monday.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the energy efficiency Conservation Block Grant.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the October 24th meeting, we'll be asking for an action to place the capital components of our energy block grant program under the superintending care of the Southfield Building Authority. If council will recall, in February of 2009, we were advised that we were eligible for $875,700. We now have completed the entire process, and that process started with the submittal of an energy strategic action plan, which was completed in February of 2010. We've identified primarily two projects: Civic Center interior and exterior lighting. There's $179,150 towards that project, and the Beechwood Arena retrofit. That is the air handling, the air conditioning system for the Beechwood facility, as well as the exterior lighting at Beechwood. Those are the two large components. Earlier this year, council approved D. Clementi Siegel to do the architectural design associated with these projects. That has been completed, and that is the $42,470. So at the October 24th meeting, we'll be asking simply to place these projects under the superintendent control of the Southfield Building Authority.
Okay. So that's the only thing that you're asking for, is just who's going to supervise the activity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is DTE Energy Smart Meter Resolution. That was referred to the Legislative Committee, and we have our Legislative Committee chairperson here this evening. Would you like to bring us up to date on where we stand?
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to defer this to Jim Charette. Well, put this together. Actually, we went back and we took the thoughts from the council and from the public, and we gathered them and put them in a proposed resolution. And it's, read it, it's right here. Jim, is there anything that you would like to add? Which, by the way, is instrumental, as always, in getting this together for us.
Thank you. Working with the committee and in respect of the input of interested parties, there is what we took into account was the health and privacy concerns, as well as the lack of upfront opt-out provisions for the public, the consumer, the homeowner, and we also added an opt-out. We asked the Public Services Commission also to study the possibility of an opt-out after the fact, so that taking into account that roughly 3/4 of the city already has, the city of Southfield already has these meters, we thought that a complete approach would be, and even though other resolutions do not have this feature, that we thought that there should be serious consideration of a opt-out or removal of these meters after the fact. We also recommended that this be in a public discussion format, and there was some additional input to the effect of possibly just broadening the language a bit to say not just DTE, but other entities or utilities that might be considering these installations in the future. So we think we've taken care of all of the items, and we are respectfully requesting consideration of the immediate need to act to move this out of committee and into an official resolution that we can transmit to the Public Service Commission.
Okay, Mr. Seibert?
I'm sorry. my concern with this is that pretty much the smart meter installation in Southfield is complete. And, so I was, thinking that we were, and this is a good, it's well-written, I have no problems with this, but, I think what I heard was that we wanted to, surely there's gonna be somebody else with a smart meter, whether it's the gas company, the water department, cable, I don't know. Somebody else is gonna come along, and it's that cumulative effect. So, my concern was, one, that this looks like it's just a DTE issue, and it's really, not completely. And the other is, which goes hand in hand with this, is, once this is, and I'm assuming, given our last discussion, that this is going to be approved, where will this be circulated? I think that this needs to get to, Consumers Energy, anybody else who sells gas or utilities. I think it needs to go to every community in the metro area, not just in Oakland County, to the councils, so that, we have tonight the, and thank you for whoever provided it, the city of Warren. But it's that collective voice that we're looking for, and that, I felt kind of hoodwinked, about this. When DTE came initially, the way it was sold was that it was a good thing, and we were going to see lower rates, and, you know, we didn't know the thing was going to be on all the time, and privacy issues, and opt-out, and, you know, none of that came up when we discussed this in March. So, I guess those are, my two issues, with this, although I certainly will support this and would offer to make the Rule 10, when the time's appropriate.
Well, okay. Any other questions, comments?
Well, it seems like I just heard Ken say what Jim said.
Yes.
Right, about expanding it.
Yeah.
The wider distribution, is a good point.
Not just DTE,
Yeah,
but
we could include some language about the cumulative effect, that concept, and that would incorporate, you know, other utilities that may be considering these installations in the future. So I don't see any problem with that in that language.
Okay. Dr. Meltzer and I found each other in the same spot this morning, and we chatted about this. He suggested, and it was his suggestion, that we broaden the language to include other utilities rather than DTE, because, and his reasoning was that if Consumers comes along in 6 months and we say, no, we aren't, and their answer could be, well, no, that only covers DTE, that doesn't cover us, so we have to start the whole process all over again, and why have to start it all over, why not be proactive? He asked if he could have a couple of minutes this evening to just share his views on this, and he's in the house, so if he would.
Just one minute.
Yeah, give your name and address for the record.
Richard Meltzer, 20850 Wink in Southfield. Very well stated. The chair and I had run into each other this morning and raised a few issues, largely precipitated by the fact that just a couple of days ago I had been reading the Consumers Power is slating their rollout of smart meters for 2012. And it occurred to me that if the language was too specific, we'd be back here again saying, you know, we can envision a scenario where Consumers Power would say, you wrote a resolution for DTE, doesn't apply to us. I'd rather not get into that tug of war and just have general language. I think, and Mr. Charette, if this was your editing job, kudos, because succinct is always great. Brevity, great virtue in brevity. You've captured all the points. I think largely, I would keep DTE in the first whereas. If you drop DTE energy, most everywhere that it's referenced, it just reads smart meters, and you're on target there. Maybe for the purpose of the most general approach, if another whereas or another sentence or two could be tacked on somewhere to really demonstrate our intent that this is regarding all public utilities. And Councilman Cyber also raised another point, I hadn't even thought of this. Maybe private business would get into this, and maybe we don't want to say public utilities, cable companies or somebody. So I'm sure there's a very simple way to embellish the language to capture the ideas that we're alluding to, and I thank the council for taking this to heart, and once again, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, bottom line is, it's not DTE, it's a smart meter. So whoever,
Right.
so.
Right, I have one other comment, and I don't know if it's because this issue, we've been working on this and so forth, but I'm sure the rest of you also have seen a number of stories reported on TV now, radio, magazines regarding the radio frequency and the cell phone. And I can tell you, I don't recall 6 months ago, hearing and seeing what I'm seeing on TV. Some of the same things we talked about here, how the data that those that are saying it's not true, that data is based on 20 years ago, and how, 20 years ago people didn't use cell phones the way they use them now. A lot of homes don't even have landlines anymore. Everything is a cell phone. And so some of the things that brought by you guys, and thank you for coming, to say, hey, yeah, okay, that's the data, but recognize where the data was drawn from, what they were using. You're not getting the whole story here. The corporations are telling you what it is that they want you to know as they make more and more and more money. More and more and more money, and the people may, down the road, really suffer because of something that's going on. We're getting more and more of it, and there's really no data or testing or whatever. So I do want to thank you guys for coming and bringing out some of these points, because you're right, Ken. When they came in March, I asked myself, why are you here? Because if it's already done, why are you showing up telling us about this? What happened to make you come before us today to talk about this? Because it's already done. We don't have the control, but although we don't have the control, doesn't mean that we don't have a voice. And so, along with getting this out as best we can, I'm hoping that the MML, that's an organization in which the cities are connected. Well, here's a resolution from Southfield, here's one from Warren, here's one from Oak Park, across the state, because there is strength in numbers. That always has been. Always has been strength in numbers. You may not see the effect right away, but sometimes if you plug at it, over time, you will uncover some things that, had you not spoken up, would have been buried forever. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. I will work with Dr. Saber. He has just a tad of experience in it. So,
Randy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Lance? Oh, no, yeah, I thought you stuck your hand up.
Chairman, I'd like to support Ken's Rule 10.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Cyber and support from Mr. Percassi that we find an immediate need to act. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mr. Cyber?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Percassi?
Yes.
And Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Percassi?
Yeah, I move that we approve this resolution, but that there be additions to it that broadens the language, that we take in how it's going to be circulated to get the most effect, and that we include private installations along with other utility companies other than DTE.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Percassi, supported by Ms. Taylor, that we approve the resolution with a proper amendments to include distribution and the broadening of the language to include not only other utilities, but anywhere that smart meters will be installed. I'll put it that way. Are we prepared to vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. And I thank you all for all of your input and your patience for working with us as we made some sausage. Okay, that concludes our agenda for this evening. But for the good of the business, I'll go around the table. Mr. Lance, do you have anything else to add? Mr. Seibert? Ms. Banks?
No, thank you.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes. I don't know, this may have come up at the last meeting, but I wasn't here. I was very glad to see the road construction on Southfield Road and Tinmont. Oh, yeah. I can hardly get out of CVS, but that's all right, because we have, and I was wondering if there was any update on how that came about. But it's not a patch repair.
The council brought it up at the right time, when we had people here from the road commission.
Okay.
And the staff followed up, and we didn't let it loose. They found some money. So it's not a perfect job, but it sure will be an improvement over it.
It sure will be it's already an improvement. Once again, speak up sometimes and get the right in front of the right audience. Top thing top.
It does take a while, this job, because
Well,
it's
very
done on
good.
like weekends and different odd hours.
It's taken 15 years.
Well, very good. It's the entrance to our city for many is right up Southfield Road. And just for just driving, whether that's interest or not, driving around, it's killing our cars. And so it's a wonderful thing. Yes, I could see it.
It would have been a little embarrassing to have however many millions of dollars was put in Southfield Road further south, get up on the surface drive and go down a cobblestone road. So.
Right, it was absolutely kidding to see a cobblestone road.
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
No, nothing.
Mr. Cassie?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had this in my packet Friday, and I also had dropped it at my door, the acting physician on assignments, and Jim also expanded upon the financial problem that we are facing. And there was another one in my packet prior to this, and it was all about Taste of Southfield Chamber of Commerce. Well, I don't get the programming anymore. We used to get a one sheet, you remember that, Ken? Mm-hmm. One sheet, so this has nothing to do with programming or information that to tune in to Channel 15. And I think it's a waste of money, to put it really bluntly. And if they get that much time to put these kinds of things together and not give information that we all were getting prior to this, I mean, I enjoyed it because I opened up and see when their council meetings were coming and they had that news. I always watched that because it was always important to me to see what they were covering as far as news about the city. But this is, I don't know what this is. I mean, it has nothing to do with the city other than, I don't want to be nasty, but if you want to write for the local magazines, get out of here and go get a job somewhere else. I mean, to me, this is what this is. I just, that's happy with it.
I got one of them.
I mean, we're tight. That means everybody's got to come to the table. There's money that we can take from cable and put into our general fund. We've done it before. And, I mean, isn't there a certain amount we can take out of there, Jim, each and every year?
Yes,
Yeah.
we comply with the regulations, but.
Yeah, comply with the rules, but, you know, if they got time to do that, they got time to give us the money to help out. And I'll tell you what, I'm really concerned, I told you that before, about the amount of foreclosures that we have and the lack of money we have to deal with it. And you know, I mean, we have, I've got 4 on my street now, and you know, they're going for almost nothing. The people who are moving in are not caring for their houses. They're, it's a mess. And if we want to see the city deteriorate, you know, it's just going to be continuous down the road. Somehow we've got to really address this and do it quickly. And that Fred is here, and
I have an answer for you, Don. Oakland County Economic Development.
So, let me tell you what, I was reading about, Fred, I was reading about what Detroit was doing, and I talked to you about it some time ago. They used to take homes that are you know, what I call misfits, because they've been added on, and you run into those kinds of homes. But to get these individuals and either assist them in moving into the homes that are vacant, so that you can create an area where you can vacate the people out of those homes, the old ones, and moving into some of these that are vacant, and just tear that area down and make them parks or woods or whatever it is. You know, that astronaut that was up there, he was talking about a ring around Detroit, making Detroit smaller and more controllable, and I'm thinking, you know, we have older homes that are not being cared for, and yet we have nice homes that are vacant. And you know, people should be approached and say, hey, you know, we'd like to step up into another home. And the system in that, and get rid of the, you know, improve the housing stock in the city anyway. So, but we've got a real job to do. I'm really running into a lot of this.
You know, may I add something to that? You know, what because I live on a street, relatively new street, that has had so much turnover, in such a short period of time. You're saying you have 4, hell, I had 8 at one time, and we've got houses, great houses, and the basements have flooded because somebody turned off the power, and now there's mold, and you would think these houses would, you know, were selling for over $300,000. They can't even give them away because now the banks own them, and they aren't going in there taking care of those mold issues. And though there are 100 people who go through those houses because they're nice, nobody's going to buy a house that when you walk downstairs, there's nothing but mold and mildew. Who would put themselves in that jeopardy? I don't care if it's for $60,000. But what I see the problem, and I agree with you, is that the houses in Southfield, including my own, my house is now 17 years old. When I bought my house, it was brand new development, and I did not have to come in and do repairs. I just had to have the income that would allow me to purchase the house. And so what I see now is that the houses are going for less, and folks are able to, you know, if you make $30,000, you can afford a $80,000 house. What is the rule? 3 times your income? Or if you make $35,000 or something, I thought it was 3 times. Right, I thought it was 3. But then the folks who are making the $30,000, the $40,000, they bought these homes, but the homes now are older, and they need repair. So they were able to qualify to buy the home, but they need some assistance in, you know, the leaks that are going on in the homes, and the paint and the roofs peeling. You know, you drive around town, you can just look at houses like, oh my gosh, they need roofs. Those bedrooms the ceilings must be just falling inside. The roofs, the concrete. You know, when I bought my house, the whole neighborhood, we had all put in side, all together, you know, like we just say, okay, let's all get together and get this side, get a good deal. For the houses, you need yard work, because they're overgrown bushes, overgrown trees that cost $1,000 to even cut down because and so, as we work on that, I don't know how, I don't have the answer, but one of the things would be, you know, money, you know, grants or whatever, apply, to help folks to do the repairs on some of these homes that are now 30 years old, that need major repairs, and some of these other houses that have been added on and added on and added on and added on, and they should have been torn down 30 years ago. Maybe start helping to offer people other choices of a better home, a home that won't cost as much to maintain. But that's what I see, and it's what I see on my block, is that the houses, people just are not, they don't have the income to keep these houses up. Like when the houses were brand new, we didn't have to do the, I don't know if we would have had the income then to do the repairs. We bought a house, we didn't need to do the repairs, that was one of the trade-offs. But, you know, younger and, you know, small child and child care, very expensive. And the tree service here in Southfield, all these grown trees and sewer problems and sewage problems because these roots are just all into you know, then they overflow and they got sewage in the house and then you got all these other issues. So those would be some things that I also see, and I agree with you.
I was just in school all day Saturday, after we got to school. Anyways, they're talking about where the seller and even the real estate people have to inform people about mold, and if you do not inform them, that, you know, people are being sued for that. And so real estate people, salespeople are now asking that air tests be done in the houses prior to people purchasing them. And I just think that, you know, I've never thought that would come to that where we home that's gonna be sold is gonna, you know, gonna ask that an air test be given, but.
Who's gonna pay for it?
Pardon?
Who's gonna pay for it?
Could be either one, but mostly the seller probably has to pay for it. But anyway, it's probably the deal. But anyway, the other thing is I wanna bring up, which is one of my favorite thieves, is Telegraph Road landscaping. And I came down Telegraph Road today, and we were the one that were first pulled up. And I get down to north of us, they got two landscaping trucks there, and putting all this beautiful new shrubs here. And I sit here and see weeds still in north of 12 Mile Road. And I just cannot understand why they don't take the first people who are messed up and start at one end and go right up. Why would you go into the north of us in Birmingham and start doing their landscaping and having these landscape trucks? I think they have two red trucks there today, all grading and everything. I got weeds and overgrown bushes and I didn't see any sprinkling CAD flags anywhere. They're supposed to put the sprinkling system back. And those people who are abutting that island are paying an assessed. You know, because they asked to be assessed to get that thing all fixed up and manicured so it reflects nicely upon their businesses. And here this thing is just absolutely terrible. We're going into the fall now, and I don't see workers there. The first two islands from I-696 going north are at least somewhat graded. I don't know what they put down, but they're supposed to put sod down, not this weeds, you know. I mean, I just am appalled at what they're doing to us.
I agree with you. But they can't put sod down or mow the grass because they still got the barrel sitting out there.
Well, you know, if they would just send some trucks down landscaping people, and they should have tore everything out, you know, and graded it because of the difference in grade that they had when they dug it out, and just put in some nice, new, fresh landscaping like they did north of 12. You know, I mean, you go right where our entrance sign is, and you go in, and it's all in weeds. And I mean, I get ticked off.
Yeah. Who do we contact?
We will hang it on doors tomorrow, making some phone calls. If that doesn't work, there'll be cards and letters be sent out.
Can our county commissioners help us with that? Can Oakland County?
That's a state road. State.
I think you ought to get Mr. Meltzer to help us.
We can help.
We can help. He's a tiger. That's right, yeah.
We'll go.
Denise.
Anyway, that's it.
Because it needs to
Can
give a voice.
I did have a question, and I remembered it with this letter. With the acting people that you have, will there be any conflict of interest with any of them because of the, like, for Lori, for example, with pension? Man, isn't she still over there too? Is there gonna be any kind of conflict?
No, that's one of the things we need, no, I don't believe so, but it's one of the things that we need to discuss and why these are not permanent. They're not permanent. They're really a holding pattern, but in the next several months, we need to discuss all of that. There have from time to time been concerns expressed, not quite using that language, but basically just, how the pension system should be handled administratively, whether HR should be doing that, or whether it should be like the Act 345, where there is a outside individual that does that. It's actually a private business where we took bids, and they were Act 345 people took proposals, and they have an outside individual that does the administrative. So we'll put it on the table. It'll be part of what we'll be talking about with the budget process. We're going to know a lot more about where we are with this audit. Then we're going to revise the 5-year plan. We'll also know more where our taxable values are. I'm hoping that the city assessor's numbers prevail and mine are wrong. I would like them to be wrong because they do, mine have a worser case scenario than, but I'm sticking with, what we've been using in the 5-year plan. So, we'll be doing a lot of heavy lifting in that entire area of how we are going to, what we're going to have to do to have a sustainable model going forward, to live within our means but still get the job done, so.
Will we also, or can you tell us where we are with the hiring of the police and fire chief?
Yes.
Where are we?
Police is underway, and we're in deliberations on that. The interview process has started, and the fire we have taken applications, and we'll be starting that process before too long.
So you'll be presenting something to the council?
Yeah, it's a council, the full council approved positions, and there will be a recommendation forthcoming.
Okay.
Thank you. And one other thing. I sat at the task force for personal property Friday, and I happened to sit next to 2 county assessors. And I was talking to him about what my philosophy was, like you buy a house for $10,000, you put $80,000 in it, what is it being assessed for? And I was really surprised at the answer I got. He said, well, we'll eventually get it. And I said, what do you mean you'll eventually get it? He said, well, when they fix it up, they'll sell it. I said, well, what if they don't sell it? He said, well, I said, wait, that's not an answer, and I got into a rhubarb over it. But I've got to make sure that we are capturing these homes that are being bought and fixed up, and they're buying for a song. And they're not, the person who puts the money in is surely not going to sell the house for what they paid for. And we are praising the house at what it is sold for. And that's really not the value. It's not the value. And those things are supposed to be assessed at value. And I just I can't believe that the county assessor said that.
Now, that wasn't my understanding. Help me if I didn't understand. I didn't think that we were assessing the homes on what the amount that they're being sold for, because,
By comparison, it's by comparison.
Right, because these
It's the only way
houses
you can
are-
appraise.
Right, I mean, the values are going down, but what they're being sold for is a lot less than what people are being taxed, the amount that they're
Well,
being
I'm just looking at what,
taxed on the house.
I'm just looking at what's happening to Southfield, and each year we're getting
Is that right?
15%, 13%, 9%, and I don't think that those homes that are being put on the assessor's appraisal are what the really value is. And
You think it's higher?
well, if you buy a house for $24,000, I mean, that house next door to me sold for $80,000, and they had to put $30,000-$40,000 into it.
Right. But are they
And
paying?
they're not selling it, so what's it worth? You think you can go to that guy and say, I'll give you $80,000 for the house? No, you say, I put in $25,000, look at the bills I have over here.
So when he bought
I
the
wanna
house-
know whether or not we're picking that up.
So when he bought the house for $80,000, it had an impact on that whole on the whole street. Everybody's value went down.
But what is the value of that house? And because it's not selling, you're not getting a comparison, a legitimate comparison of values of the homes in the area. And I think that's why we're getting beat up so bad. And when you multiply by how many homes we have vacant, and how many homes, like Jim, looked at me weekend, I think we had one house sold, I think, this last weekend, and two the weekend before, where you're not getting the sales, but people are still, investors are buying these houses and renting them, and they're getting like $1,300 a month for rentals on these houses.
Because there are a lot of
So,
people out there.
but what are the values? I mean, if you even went, if you had an office building, and you bought it for $80,000, and you had it fully occupied, and they said, let's see what your rental is, you say, I get $1,300, they would appraise that office building based upon the rentals, full rental, and how much cash flow it has. But you don't do that on a rental house.
I don't think
I mean, I just think
assessment, I don't think the assessment rules were designed to take into consideration the circumstances that we're in, where we're, year after year, we're in a decreasing, value of, I think their rules are designed for increasing value. They know how to do that. They don't know how to do it the other way around. And, it's eating us alive.
The whole proposal is set up that way.
Yes, eating us alive.
So it has almost an assumption of some sort of inflation.
Right.
Yeah, but new construction can be
At full value.
at full value.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, whether it be going in the house and putting in a finished basement and a couple of toilets and
Yeah.
finishing a roof, to me, that's new construction.
Yeah, but by the same token, the assessment rules, quote unquote, is every 5 years, the houses are supposed to be reassessed. But remember the rule that we almost got into a,
It's not 5 years anymore.
Pardon?
It's not 5 years anymore.
Well, I know it used to be 5 years, and if they didn't reassess the homes in 5 years, the state would deduct, they would depreciate the value of the house by 10% or something. If we didn't,
All
that
I
was
know
when.
is that if it wasn't appraised property and they did a sampling, the county did a sampling, they'd give you a factor.
Right.
But, that's all I know.
County gives us a
But I just know that we cannot go from $3.5 billion down to 2.3 and live. I mean, this city's gonna go, and we will not be able to afford services if it continues. I mean, that's,
I think maybe we need to bring someone in that can clearly explain what the situation is, how houses are assessed based on the economy that we're in, going backwards. I know that it was tried once before.
I don't think I'd want to.
Well, we got this, there's something that we need to understand, because we gotta live with it. So, you know, just stick our head in the sand and say, I don't wanna know what it is. It's not gonna help us.
That's an interesting thought. Let's see if I can find out who might be able to do that.
Okay.
For us, get a little different perspective on it.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot of money we're down.
It is, yeah. Yeah. And people still want police, fire
We
protection.
lose about $1 billion in value.
Right. Mr. Barrett? Okay, I've got a couple of things pretty quick. One is, I think everybody saw in the package that Lassa Road is gonna be rebuilt from 11 to 12 mile. So that's gonna be, and it's interesting that they're gonna make it concrete, not asphalt. But that's an improvement that, we need. I have, just something to respond to, something that, Ms. Garrison said. And you were talking about when you bought your house, it was new and you didn't have to put anything in it. Let me give you a personal story. The first house that we lived in was one that needed a lot of repairs. And we lived in it, and it was constant repairing and trying to upgrade the house. I was promoted and transferred, and when we were looking for a new house, I asked my wife what kind of a house she was looking for, and she said, I don't really care that much, but I want to tell you this one thing. The only time I want to see a hammer is when we hang the pictures. So, I can identify with the story that you told about people moving into homes that needed work to bring up to speed.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
Next door to me, this house I keep referring to, you know, somebody moved in rentals, and on both sides, so there's two rental house, my house, and the corner house, and on the other side, they all have moving reflector lights that come on. And I was babysitting my son's dog, who barks at anything that you think within 100 yards of the house.
No, let's get going on that.
And I seen the guy who was renting, and I went over and asked him if I could help him in any way or give him some information. And he said, I seen some trucks in your driveway the other day. He said, yeah, they were repairing the house. They took all the copper out of it.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, Jim knows I'm out cutting my grass, and I'm outside. I come home all times, hours. I get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I never see anybody there. But one thing I did notice, they took the for sale sign down from the yard, and they threw it in the woods, in the weeds, and because they didn't keep up the house. And so I called the real estate company, and I told them, but they never got back to me. But I assume what happened was they took the sign down through the weeds, so you went and turned the lights on inside and cleaned it up. Well, I mean,
Now, that is, I'm glad that you said that, because that's something that we're probably not thinking, that people are backing up these trucks, and you're thinking that they're working in a house, somebody's coming, and what they're doing, right in that garage, is loading up all the copper, the furnace probably too, the furnace, the water heater.
So, yeah,
dishwasher,
they call them urban miners.
Yeah. I can imagine, yeah.
Wow. And then that's it, and then they're driving off, and then whoever buys it at this reduced price now has to go in and redo all these things, and they don't have the cash to do that. But they can get a loan to buy it.
Okay, the last thing is I want to hand this out. This is a flyer from the NBC Layout, which is part of the Michigan Municipal League. Is having a fundraiser on Friday, and I won't be able to be there because we have a candidates event on Friday night, so I already told them I won't be there. Anybody else that would like to support the part of the Michigan Municipal League, they'd be most happy, and I'm part of this organization. If there's nothing else, the meeting is adjourned. Appreciate all your inputs.
Yeah.